Well, you're all very welcome to our COVID special in Destination Newry, and we'll get straight into it here. We're not saying we're experts here, but we're just asking sort of people within our community, counsellors and doctors and people from the financial institutions or companies, local companies that can help maybe answer some questions, and people from Citizens Advice, along with a few maybe with questions and that. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. We're not saying we'll be able to cover it. We're going to try and get through a lot of stuff and just see. So we'll add in a few people here just to get started. I'm going to try and add in Councillor Gary Stokes, if I can add him in here, if he's available. Let me just see. Hello, Gary, can you hear me?
I can indeed, Caroline.
That's good, and I'll try and add Councillor Charlie Casey. Hello, Charlie, can you hear me?
Can, surely, yep.
That's good. So, boys, basically, give me your take on what's happening with COVID around the Newry area and how it's affecting people. Just tell me about it. Gary, do you want to start there and what's happening with council?
Well, as Charlie will know, when he's as the chair of the council, he's obviously he's very much at the head of things at the moment. But you know, everything has changed. Nobody has seen this before. I think the last time they couldn't get the mass in Ireland, I think, was during the famine. That gives you some idea of what we're dealing with here. So, in the council is put down to bare bones services. Obviously, you've got, we've closed the parks, we've closed the community centres, we closed the leisure centres, and that's one I went for my last swim last Monday, breaking my heart. But those things, so we're doing our best to try and maintain core services at the moment, like the of refuge, collection and things like that. I'll hand you over to Charlie, because in fairness, Charlie's at the centre of things as chair of the council at the moment.
Go on ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks very much, and good evening. Yeah, I was in a conference. My brain's fried, actually. I'm on a telephone call this last hour and 15 minutes with all the party reps and directors of council and the chief executive. We're working day and daily. These conferences are happening day and daily because things are changing on a daily basis. As Gary says, these are unprecedented times. We're just taking things as it comes upon us. But people aren't actually paying attention, and I would make this appeal to people. People aren't paying attention to the social exclusion issue, where this virus is easiest transmitted. Use your ability to stay at the safe distance and try and prevent this. As Gary says, we have closed, or in the process of closing, parks and community centres, and I think now today all the public parks are closing as well. The car park end of it, you can't maybe enforce people climbing over fences or finding another way into a public park. But at the end of the day, where there are locks available, we'll put locks on them, and we're closing the car parks because we were swamped on Sunday with visitors to all the different parks in our district. I'm talking about both in the Newry area and the area, swamped completely. And, staff are taking abuse from people who just would not take on board the seriousness of the situation we find ourselves in. But as I say, it's ever evolving. It's unprecedented times, and I appeal to people to take note of the guidelines that were set down by the Public Health Authority and the General Medical Council.
In general, Charlie, council services, bins are still going ahead. Gary, you too, bins is still normal, yeah?
Bin
collection.
At the moment, yes, but there are contingency plans in place that if, say, staff did go off sick, and at the moment, what we've done is they're only going to a cab, and there's vehicles following around so that the more men in a cab with vehicles, so that staff can have that physical distance to 2 meters that's required. But yes, there is a contingency plan in place that if we, and the blue bin will be the first to go in the brown bin, but hopefully it won't come to that. But and we maintain a black bin service. But I say that those are just plans there that hopefully we'll never need to utilise.
Right. Okay.
See, the difficult thing is here, we don't know who is actually carrying the virus. There's no testing, so people could be carrying the virus and
Charlie, just on that point, just let me bring it in. But let me just 1 second there. So basically, just summarise this for me. The bins are still being collected, yeah? Can people still bring rubbish to the dump?
Well, that's a meeting today. That issue was raised because Belfast City Council and a few other councils have closed their household recycling centres because they were actually swamped again, and the people just would not listen to the one car in, one car out, and there were in some circumstances, quite abusive to our staff. So we are just leaving our centres open, but reviewing that over the next day or so. But it doesn't help when councils around you have closed theirs, which would mean people would drive from other areas to our recycling centres, and would put undue pressure, huge undue pressure on our council and the council staff.
Right, okay. So basically, it's still open, but at the minute, people can go with rubbish. What else has stopped with this? I believe that the council on their website today have got something up. We'll talk maybe a bit. Is there anything else that's closed services with the council at the minute? Or is everything as normal? Obviously, it's not normal, but is services...
Just where essential services are required. I mean, births, deaths, and stuff like that. Will somebody there to deal with all of that. There's always somebody at the end of a telephone call. A lot of people, a lot of council staff are working from home, but the council is still ticking over in the background. And if you don't be afraid to use the call lines that are on the council webpage.
So on the council webpage. Let me just bring somebody else in. Sorry, Gary, go ahead.
Sure. No, just as I understand, also the staff have been involved in deep cleaning our leisure centres in the event that they were needed for hospitals or that sort of thing. That they'll be ready if hopefully that never comes again. But that's been happening as well. Okay,
let me just try and bring somebody else in here now. Dr. Sean McAvoy, can you hear me?
I can, Carl. Can you hear me all
right? So, yeah, I can hear you okay. I know you're only after finishing work up in Daisy Hill and that, but can you give us a bit of tell us a wee bit about this and what we expect in the Newry area with this COVID-19?
Well, again, doctors here, we're literally maybe one step ahead of the general public in that we're hearing what to expect from other doctors.
Right.
The difference is, I suppose, these are doctors now that maybe some people know and trust. We're not hearing information coming from China. We're hearing information from Dublin, and especially the information coming from Italy, because I say, nobody can look at the Italian health service and sort of think, oh, well, sure, they're behind the times. We'll cope. For the last few weeks, the management, I think, of the Southern Trust and head doctors, I would say it's an atmosphere of calm terror, really, in trying to prepare for the worst. But it really is unknown. But there's no reason to think why we will be spared some of the horrific things that have happened in Italy, which is why, the biggest weapon we've got at the moment is this preventing the spread. And it has to be what people follow. And I say, as everyone I'm sure tonight can see, the last few days around the town, and not just Newry, the whole of the country, and indeed the UK, there's a lot of people who just aren't following basic information and basic safety. And what is going to happen is the spread, if this happens and peaks too quickly, the whole health service is just going to be overwhelmed, and people aren't going to get looked after.
So can you tell me, what is the plan then, Sean? Why are we all told to stay in our homes? I know people that say, well, it's a flu, it's only a flu. Like, what would you say back to people that say that? And the bottom line is, downtown today, I seen people running in groups that weren't family. We've seen people shaking hands yesterday. There is businesses still open there. There's builders working in that, and I understand everybody has to get a job, but there's some confusion from a doctor's point of view. Why are we all in our houses or meant to stay at home? Try and explain that a wee bit to us, please.
Well, I think one of the basic premises of this is there's no treatment, right? If people have this, there is no treatment. So the idea is try and reduce the spread. If people could actually limiting your contacts to one person a day that you might infect, as opposed to maybe 2.5 or 3, the numbers that you're seeing are out of this world, that you can prevent infecting. So the biggest weapon we have at the minute is for people not to get infected. it's not because if you are infected, well, there's no cure. Most people will hopefully have a mild flu-like illness, but unfortunately, there's a substantial amount of people who become very unwell, and a percentage of people who will end up dying. So if somebody tells you that your biggest weapon is not to get infected, that is the big message I think people have to get. And the problem is, there's a lot of people just think, I get it, so what? And they're not thinking about,
But
the
doctor,
elderly person,
tell me
their
this:
relatives, or
what
somebody
is
else who
getting
may
it?
not be as lucky.
Thank you, doctor. What is getting it? If I've got a cold, if I start sniffing and I've got a sore throat, is that it? Is it a small cough? What are we looking for here? And how long does it take for me to get? We started staying in from really yesterday or a few days ago, but totally staying in, right? Does that mean I'm okay, or does this come in 10 days' time, 7 days? Do I start coughing? Do I have a sore throat? What happens?
Well, so far from what we're hearing, people can actually have it and be asymptomatic for 3 to 4 days before they have any symptoms. The majority of the symptoms do appear to be, at the moment, a temperature, a dry cough, sore throat, just really run-of-the-mill viral type illnesses that people do get sort of around this time of year. There isn't any magic one symptom that people hear that they can go, yep, I definitely have it. But really, we're working from the out of hours a few weeks ago. There's no testing been done. So if somebody rings in with a cough and a temperature, we basically tell them, presume you have it, go into isolation for 2 weeks.
Right.
But again, the advice does change regularly. The worrying thing is, for 2 to 3 days, you can be actually infecting people before the symptoms start. If you're in contact with somebody and you have no symptoms, within 10, 14 days, you can be reasonably sure that you didn't pick it up from that area you were in.
So basically what you're saying is, if everybody stays at home and they don't meet people, you can't get it if you haven't already got it.
You can't get this virus isn't lurking outside your door, waiting to jump on you when you take the milk in.
And you mentioned their testing.
If somebody infects you, or you touch something that somebody else has infected. So if you're well at the minute and you want to stay well, stay in.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
So tell me this.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people can't stay in and would love to be able to sit in their arse and watch Netflix for 3 months.
Yeah.
So I say those people who do have to be out, they have to be out. But everyone else who can stay in, because there still doesn't look as if there is going to be any testing or anything to allay fears of anyone. So
basically that's the question that people are asking. You heard the World Health Organization saying we need testing. Test. But at the minute we're not doing that. So, what is that policy? Is it Northern Ireland hasn't got the tests, or what's the story?
I think that's people who pay grade are a lot higher than mine who could answer that. Down south they're testing. From what I hear, one of the biggest companies in the world actually makes a test, based in County Antrim, but nobody from the NHS has even approached them yet to buy the tests off them. So obviously, in countries where this has been kept under control, Singapore, South Korea, the golden rule has been isolation and test. But we're not getting no test. Doctors aren't getting tested. Nurses aren't getting tested. I know it's hard for people on the street to sort of ring in and people be saying, well, don't worry, you're not getting a test. If a nurse or a doctor has to go into work on a ward tonight and they're a wee bit worried they might have something, they'll not get a test.
Okay. So that's the problems with it all. All we can do as people now at the minute is to stay indoors, as Charlie says, so far as Gary said, that's what we need to do.
Yep.
That's all we can do.
For the next few weeks, and if the amount of people who become infected even stays the same, but it's spread over 6 weeks instead of 2 to 3 weeks, well, your chances of getting a hospital bed obviously would be a lot better too. Because the worrying thing is everyone gets sick at the one time. There only is a limited number of critical care beds, only a limited number of ventilators, and obviously a limited number of staff.
So from your point of view, basically the golden question, is this as bad as they say it is? Is this going to get worse? We've heard some predictions about crazy numbers of people dying. Do you believe that's all definitely something that could happen?
Yeah, I would put it back to Italy. You know, a lot of people from around the Newry area would have been on a holiday around Verona and the north of Italy, and we're not talking about a backward country here.
Yeah.
And they have what, maybe 10,000 deaths so far. Well, again, I would love somebody to be able to look back at us in 3 months and go, "Weren't you a bunch of headers thinking this was all going to go bad?" There's only 4 or 5 deaths around the place, but unfortunately, we're expecting a lot worse, and it will get worse. So the experts are telling us. So it's really, let's just try to make the best of what we can get.
I know Jackie Cole put up a question there, which again, I'm not. We're trying not today to put anybody on the spot, you know, because obviously it's very, you know, sensitive. So, can people with underlying issues be tested? I know it's not
Nope.
policy. No.
No, there's no testing. The only, and which is why there's this artificially false low number of positive people that are coming up in the north of Ireland or Northern Ireland. You'll see, oh, there's only 180 or 300 positives. That's because the only people who have been tested are people who are brought into hospital. So if you're brought into hospital and you're sick, you are tested. Nobody else is getting tested. They're talking about maybe health professionals at some stage being able to get a test, but you know, nobody has said anything yet, and there's no arrangements yet. But we're hoping that is something that might be, you know, sorted out the next week or two. But certainly not at the minute. It doesn't really matter. You know, I think what your underlying issues are, nobody's going to test you.
So I don't know, guys, if you have anything to ask Dr. Sean or anything like that, have you anything that you want to say? I thank him for all his work and for all his colleagues' work, and they're basically saving our lives, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I happened to listen to the radio this morning, and it was discussed at the Assembly, the issue of positive testing. And I think they are taking that decision. They're finally doing some cop on at the Assembly that there is that absolute need for testing. They're doing it in the 26 counties. They were way ahead of us at the start in mitigation circumstances to prevent this happening, but we overtook them there for a while. We did, but now they're they're closing their pubs and clubs and restaurants and theatres and all of that, and they're testing, continuously testing. And the only time, and fair play to Dr. Sean McAvoy and his team for all the work to do, the only people who get tested are the people who become critically ill.
Just on that, Sean, one of the things I've heard from people in the profession, in your profession, is obviously if they get the symptoms, they're self-isolating, but if they could get the test, they could then get back to work. People wouldn't have it. So, I mean, I'm aware of one team of health workers, half the team are off the moment because they suspect that they may have it. But if they could get tested, they could get back to work. And that's bound to be a big issue.
Yeah, it's there is also the thought that even when people recover, they can actually be infectious for, you know, a considerable while afterwards. But this is all unknown stuff. And again, I must stress there's people sort of who are at the forefront of treating the people in the actual main hospital who are probably at a lot more risk than sort of the rest of us on the periphery, you know. Yeah,
but it's a shame and a disgrace that the staff in NHS aren't being tested, continuously tested. Shame and disgrace.
Yeah, well, to be honest, a lot of them would settle for proper equipment, never mind testing. I know there's nurses there in our building that are taking bloods and all of people and that don't even have masks, even the cheapest, most basic masks. They're running around over to the main hospital trying to find them. So I think even there's a level of equipment here that people would find even more useful than masks, even than testing, just to get their day-to-day done. It's criminal if you see the resources that some of the nursing staff and the doctors have to try and work with.
I think O'Neill's will come to the rescue on that one. With a bit of luck, they'll be able to make the right amount of kits to go right around all the different districts.
I'm just going to bring in somebody else here from Rosemary McDonald from Citizens Advice Bureau just to add to the stream. If I can get her. Are you okay there, Rosemary? Can you hear us?
It's community advice, but formerly Citizens Advice. But what's a name when we're talking about coronavirus?
What is the official name?
Community advice. But
community advice. I also want to try and add on Fergal McCormick here from PKF FPM. If I can just bear with me, everybody. It's hard juggling all these. Can you hear me, Mr. McCormick?
I can hear you, Cathal.
Thank you, Fergal. So I'll just remove this ticker for the bottom. If anybody wants to see there, you can go to your YouTube on your TV. Just search Destination Newry Video and it'll come straight up for you. You can see it on the big screen. Of course, it's on Facebook, YouTube, some of it's on Twitter. So there's lots of yous adding in at the minute. There's, I don't know what there is there, but Fergal and Rosemary, have you anything that you just want to really ask Dr. Sean? I know that he's busy there and he came home and he's basically on his mini iPad or something, trying. He probably hasn't got his tea. So if there's anything you have to ask or anything, if you just before thank him.
No, Dr. Sean, I want to say thanks very much for the honest
Absolutely.
information that you've
Just
given.
speak into the mic a wee bit, Rosemary.
I want to say thanks very much for the honest information you've given us. I hope people watching this listen to you, because my biggest bugbear is people are not either socially isolating or socially distancing, and they need to realise the importance of this, and to hear it from somebody local in our local community is vital. And can I say thanks to you and all your staff, and I know my own staff are the same, working round the clock to help everybody, and I want to say thanks very much.
Yeah, I'll back that up.
Yeah,
I think we'd all
Cathal,
reiterate that. Go ahead, Fergal.
I think, Carol, the community are really appreciative of what all the health professionals are doing, and obviously all those who are supporting them, and that includes obviously those carers who are helping with the vulnerable in our community. And suffice to say, it is the very least we can do is to abide by the advice being provided by the health professionals.
Thank you, Fergal. So we'll go back to this again. So Dr. Sean, I don't think there's anything else. Appreciate it. I know you'll come back in again for us on any updates. So thank you very much for everything. And it's brilliant in talking to you. Thank you.
And Cal, can I just say some of the other some of the other staff there, the likes of the domestic staff and the receptionists around the hospital too, maybe sometimes forget about, but I know we'd be lost without our domestic staff who actually are, tell us how to keep things clean and looking after us with wee bits of sanitizer and whatnot that they've got stashed away.
Sean, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
All the best, folks.
Thank you now.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks, appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
So I still have got who we've got here. We've got Charlie back on there. And we want to bring somebody in that's got a question. And I don't know whether, Kevin, you've got a bit of a question here for us that you want to ask. Should you just throw it out there? I don't know who can basically, anybody can answer your question, Kevin, but try it anyway. Go ahead.
I'm hoping maybe something could have drummed around the council offices now. See, over the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of people in the household that's going to be very poorly off. They're not going to be able to afford the proper bills because the proper wages aren't coming into the house. What if it comes to a stage where people can't afford to pay their utility bills, the likes of electricity? If they have a power meter, if they don't have the money to put in the meter, they're in the dark. Have we anything in place to provide for them? Because it is going to happen.
Maybe one of the councillors could say something on that.
Well,
I know.
Funny,
Go ahead, Tony.
at that meeting I was at today, there's, I know Rosemary would be aware of this, we're forming a community hub, which should take in people like Rosemary and the Confederation of Community Groups, the South Down Community Rural Network, and other groups such as that, to provide for people in need with basic foodstuffs. And also, they mentioned the fact that people's utility bills will become a problem if they're wage or they're out of work, find themselves out of work. And there are mitigating circumstances as we speak that they can avail of. And I had a load of them published on my Facebook page. If anybody cares to visit them, there's a number of telephone numbers there to ring. But I don't think, or we hope, that people, the vulnerable people and the people who are going to feel it the most, will not be forgotten. That maybe Rosemary can come in on the community hub. She's a key part of that.
Yeah, I think it's important that what I can see, which is really, really good, is that Newry Morning Down Council have ourselves as we have a community group, Community Voluntary Strategic Forum. We're communicating with one another, and that's organisations like PIPS, Women's Aid, Space, ourselves, Southdown community, the community networks, we're all working together, community transport. So we work well. We already have a group formed and a forum formed. So then part of our role going forward is that we are going to do what we can within our organisation to bring food, to bring information, to refer to other organisations, and that's part of all our roles. So I think that's going to be very important. I know from our own point of view, we have never seen unprecedented phone calls into our service. It's unbelievable. I have to say, staff have been absolutely fantastic of last week. But what they're listening to is unbelievable. And these are people who have never been in the benefit system, don't understand the benefit, don't know where to turn to, are very much on their own. There's an awful lot out there. But for me, it's partnership working. Not one organisation in Newry Morning Down can do it on our own. We've got to work together, and we've got to work with the statutories, and the statutories have to see the value, which I think they do in the Newry Morning Down area. They very much see the value of the community and the voluntary sector.
So, Rosemary, but on Kevin's direct question there, I think basically what Kevin's saying is, what happens if people do not have the money to put in a meter for electricity? You know, now any of you can jump in, Charlie, or what's going to happen? What?
That's what the community forum is, where the forum's going to come in together, and the statutory voluntary community organisations are going to come in together. That information will go out over the next few days, what they can do, how they can access food, how they can access vouchers. We will be relying on other people to support us on that, but that will be coming through. It's about us coming together and getting that information out as soon as possible.
Will you come back on to Destination Newry and let us know and let us broadcast to people where they can go and get this? And same, obviously, Charlie said it's on Facebook. Gary's got it in his. So we needed people to know, because we sometimes assume people know, but you know, not everybody's on the normal mediums that everybody expects them on. We need to tell them.
You would be surprised. A lot of people still like their local newspapers. The elderly still like to buy their local newspapers.
Yes.
They don't go online. So it's about getting information into the local papers. It's getting information out in any way that we can. Council websites, our own websites, Facebook and everything else. But this is just a new initiative, and it's just developing as we speak. And actually, really, today I've just been involved with it. So once we get that moving, all of us will play our part to get that information out to community associations, community groups, posters, advertising wherever we can.
So, Kevin, does that answer your question? Have you any other question, Kevin?
No, well, it doesn't, because I read what all the local councils are doing, and that's the thing that was actually missing out, because people who are struggling at the moment, hand to mouth, week to week, are going to struggle. These same people are actually going to potentially will be sitting in the dark, though they probably won't even have the gas money. But, you know, it's okay getting onto all them websites and this, but none of them actually answers that part of it. How are they going to be helped? Or are they just going to be one of the statistics that just sits in the dark and we all forget about them?
No, Kevin, I think it's a brilliant point you've raised, and very well raised. And it's people like you that need to highlight, because sometimes when you're in the middle of the wood, you can't see the trees. So it's very important that people like you, community people, start to raise issues that the rest of us maybe are not realising. And that's a very valid point.
Thank you, Rosemary. Kevin, we'll leave it at that, Kevin. I'll just take you out of that there, if that's okay. And we'll go back to adding in a few people to the stream. So, Rory, can you hear me, Rory? Rory? Rory?
Yeah.
Yes, Rory, have you got a question?
Yeah, I have. I tell you, the question I would worry about, we have a lot of pensioners living within the Newry Morning Down area who have no family. They're living on their pension. They will have money to buy food and utilities, but they've been told to stay at home for fear of contracting this virus. How do these people get their groceries?
Well, I think there are some of the local supermarkets that are doing delivery service, and there's active community associations in almost every. I've been very vocal on this in the Newry area, and they're key. They have a key role to play in that. And if they know of someone who lives alone and does, as you said, doesn't have any relatives, go to that person, try and contact that person and say, "Listen, is there any way we can help you?" And that's when people like the likes of Rosemary or the likes of the community associations, the confederation, the community groups come in way in behind them and help them out on that show.
Just add there.
Go ahead, Gary.
No, I think there's good examples already. I mean, I'm sure we all have come across it already of Newry people who are knocking the door and saying, look, is there anything you need? Somebody's been sick or something, and saying, look, you want me to get you anything? Maybe somebody hasn't got a car or whatever, and saying, look, if you need me to get you, those offers are very much, they're happening at the moment. I mean, really, so far, I think have been fantastic. You have a lot of young people saying, look, are offering, they're home from work at the minute, they're off, doing time in the hands, offering to do these things. So I have to say, I take my hat to the people at the moment.
I would say to anybody there that if you have good information, or if you're a football club, or if you're some sort of a community association and you are doing anything for the community, do contact us so that we can let people know. And also, by coming together and you telling us what you're doing, other communities can hear what you're saying and decide for themselves. Because as Rosemary said, Charlie, everybody said, we're all in this together. So we're all out to help each other. Now, I just see there that somebody mentioned about shopping online. Sorry, Rosemary.
Can I come in on the question from
Yes,
Kevin?
go ahead. You're on.
After emailing me or texting me an information line, you can apply for discretionary support payment. Telephone number 0800 58 72 750. And people can get immediate help through that for the likes of your bills and your utility bills. The other people that we never should forget is our local St. Vincent de Paul, who are really, really good at helping out with giving you money for meters. And they're very good. And don't forget our local food bank, the Larder, based in Mary Street in Newry.
Carol, Fergal here. Can I say,
sorry.
certainly in my own area in Warren Point, the local GA club, St. Peter's GA, they have formed a COVID response voluntary group, and they've assembled quite a lot of people who are willing at very short notice to be whatever help they can be in the local community. And they've also been operating a food bank in association, I think, with the local St. Vincent de Paul. So I think there are already, as Gary has said, many local groups willing and ready to help when needed.
That's brilliant, Fergal. And I think that, you know, what would help that further, possibly, is, as Rosemary said earlier, is if we all come together. Because I know there's groups in, for example, in a certain area, and they're getting food hampers and they're leaving them to old people. What I don't know is whether or not they're doing that correctly. Are they leaving that at a door and they're passing the virus? You know, that's what was happening. I know things is a wee bit different now, but I'm sure there's proper procedure and proper procedural ways to be done. Like every time there's an event in Newry, as far as I know, the council have to pass that event. There has to be a risk assessment done. And I just think that we need to be sort of pulling it all together, that we're all doing it, talking of the same hymn sheet. And somebody with great ideas, it needs to just be double checked that we're not actually creating a bigger problem just out of our goodwill.
No, that's where this community hub will come under it, Carol, if you don't mind me saying that.
Yep.
They will be establishing the proper protocols, and they'll be doing all this in tandem with those groups that you spoke about, those fair-minded community representatives who are going around door to door. But as you said, somebody said there, not too sure if it was Gary said it, you need to make sure that they have established protocols as well, that they're not delivering a loaf and coronavirus at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
This community hub will be establishing proper protocols and will be working in tandem with all those good-minded citizens.
That's brilliant, Charlie. Anybody else want to speak on that?
Just want to say as well, the council are looking to divert some of the money that they would normally spend on events, which obviously are not taking place, and channel it through this hub and through the likes of St. Vincent de Paul. And the point is really well made. If we can work through the existing organisations that have structures, it's really important. And as I say, there's lots of events that aren't going to happen now. The council, where it can, should be directing that money now where it's needed.
Again, brilliant. So we're all pulling that together now. Sorry, Rory, I'm going to put you there. Rory, did that answer any of your question? Have you another question, or what's the story?
I'll tell you another question I have. Every Saturday night, Newry Helping the Homeless will be out on the streets feeding homeless people. Newry Helping the Homeless have said now that they're not going to be out on the street due to the risk of passing this virus around. Who's going to feed the homeless people? Can the council open up a facility maybe to feed the homeless?
What is happening there? Anybody?
Just a few minutes ago, that the community hub that I spoke about, that has the Confederation community groups and the likes of Rosemary and people like that, and all those other smaller groups under one umbrella, and all those issues will all be treated with the same urgency and dealt with appropriately, I would imagine.
Well, as long as somebody can come back and tell us about it as soon as possible, because even today I seen homeless people in Newry, and you know something, there's nobody about to feed them anymore. There's no places open, so I don't know what they're doing. Plus the other day there was a charity before they closed. We were passing, and I can tell you the queue of people that were waiting for food out of a food bank, that's all gone, but then people still out there. They're still there.
Now, as Gary said, you also have the St. Vincent de Paul and the Larder, that group in Newry State, I think it is. The council are investing huge amounts of money in that. There will be over the next month or so.
That's brilliant. So I want to, Rory, anything else?
No, I'm okay for the minute.
So, Fergal, I want to move on to the fact and the impact this is having on businesses. Now, obviously, just on that, Rory, you did mention to me about, like, I don't want to mention the business you're involved, but even say part-time staff or people that are now laid off, you know, what is going to happen with these people? There's a lot of people out there worried about their work. Okay, they're worried about the virus, but as this thing goes on, eating and living is going to become very important. Fergal, from their point of view, is there help out there? The government's announced a lot. We hear about 80%. We hear about mortgage holidays. How does people actually act on these? Like, for example, take the mortgage holiday. Do you just stop paying your mortgage? Is that what you do? Have you any idea? Can you help?
Yeah, I mean, really, the 3-month mortgage holiday, which most of the financial institutions appear to be committed to, you have to contact your financial institution in the first place and get them to agree to the holiday. It is very dangerous to cancel any direct debit without getting an agreement with the person providing the finance in the first place. But as a general rule, most of the main mortgage providers are willing to offer a 3-month holiday periods. And what that means is that the amount you would have paid over that 3-month period is normally going to be spread over the remaining part of the term of your loan, including the interest element. So certainly most of the main mortgage providers in the UK and obviously in Northern Ireland are participating, but you must, I stress, you must speak to your mortgage provider.
So Ashley McDonald has just put up something there. I didn't know the name of it, but it sort of did catch me the other day. Furlough working. What is furlough working? Explain to people.
Well, what has happened is
oh, sorry, Ferg, go on ahead.
What has happened is, Cal, obviously the context of it is, first of all, that there is a major impact on business and business employees. And one of the measures which the government has brought in is a thing called the Job Retention Scheme. And what they're offering is that 80% of gross salary up to 2,500 a month or 30,000 a year. And the term they're using it for is for a furlough worker. Now, a furlough worker, in simple terms, is somebody who's not made redundant, but who is temporarily laid off and designated as a furlough worker and is not able to work. It's very important. You're not able to work if you're deemed a furlough worker. Now, there may well be further clarifications in the days ahead, but the existing clarification is at present, you're not able to work. Now, what happens is, you asked the next question, Cal, was how do you access it? To be honest, your employer can't access it immediately because the HMRC are putting in place portals at present. But hopefully, employers will first of all get you designated a furlough worker, and they'll write and advise you, and then there may be initial cash flow implications for the employer. However, HMRC are hopeful that within a very short period of time that they will be in a position to accept applications from employers for designated furlough workers. And then what will happen is your employer, your existing employer, will continue to pay, if you're a furlough worker, 80% of your gross salary up to a maximum of £2,500 a month.
Okay, Rosemary, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that Fergal was 100%. Just to say that we're getting a massive amount of queries around that. and particularly since Friday, because people, they heard the information and thought, I'm going to get it immediately. But like Virgil said, employers don't maybe have the cash flow. It's going to go onto a portal, and that's going to take up until the early days of April to happen. So yes, but it's important, as I say, that people know that can be accessed. But it's just going to take a wee bit of time, and it's difficult for employers at this stage in time as well.
I mean, to be honest with you, very difficult for employers. Make no mistake,
Yeah.
most employers are in a very severe problems at present in terms of cash flow. The important thing to say, however, is that this scheme is backdated to the 1st of March. So if, for example, you have been temporarily laid off and you qualify as a furlough worker, all indications are, and there are further guidelines. The way these things work, to be honest with you, Cal, virtually every day there's further guidelines coming out in interpretation. But the innuendo is that if you're on a payroll at the 1st of March, and at some stage during March you have been furloughed, you will ultimately get that back from your employer as 80%. Indeed, your employer may choose, if they're in a fortunate enough cash flow position, to pay the additional 20% as well to you. But the government, through HMRC, will guarantee you 80%. Now, Cal, to be fair, there are further complications there. Whether you talk about 0-hour contracts, whether you talk about the self-employed, etc. So I wouldn't want to give the impression that this is all simple. There will be complications, but there are other. If I could briefly touch upon them, Cal, there are other help schemes out there for businesses, because at this particular moment, my business personally hasn't stopped with clients and non-clients contacting us, because the revenue side of many businesses is virtually dried up, and therefore there's no money coming in to pay money out. So the government have also introduced, and again you talked about earlier on, you referred to it, the 80% loan, the business interruption loan scheme. Again, can be slightly misleading, and in our experience, that will only become available again if your bank agrees. And there's about 22 banks in the UK are on that list. To be honest with you, I don't want to name it, but just you should be aware there's one of the 4 main banks in Northern Ireland are currently not on that list. And what happens there is the government is willing to give an 80% loan if businesses can demonstrate up to 5 million, if your turnover is under 45 million. But if businesses can demonstrate that this is a temporary cash shortfall they have, that will help them over to hopefully start up again at a later stage, to help them through core costs. For example, while the business is open or not, there are a number of costs, whether it be repairs and maintenance. There's a number of things that have to be paid one way or the other. Now, again, in that regard, I would say, Cal, I would recommend to anybody not to rush. I'm aware 1 or 2 people have done this, not to rush and simply say to a bank, cancel all my direct debits. That is not a wise thing to do, because literally you don't want to be bad credit rating. You need to go through them. And certainly there are some HP houses, for example, who are also giving 3 to 6 months holidays. But the strong advice in this is you must talk to your mortgage lender. Don't listen to the pub talk that says, just ring up and stop all your direct debits.
Right. So
that is not wise advice in the long term.
Okay, so what I pick up from that, just to summarize it, right? Basically, if you have a mortgage, there is a 3-month holiday, but you cannot just stop your direct debit. You must contact your bank. That's number one. Second thing, the furlough, most likely, the furlough payment, if that's the right word for it, right? That's something, is that activated by the employer or the employee? So I've just been paid off. What happens to me?
Well, the employer, just be careful. Now, you can't be made redundant. There's a very important terminology.
Exactly.
If the employer believes they can temporarily lay you off and get you designated a furlough worker, they then eventually have to register you through their payroll system with HMRC. To be honest, as I said earlier, the portal is not working yet, not fully operational yet, but that's how it will work.
Right.
But again, to be fair, Carol, there are other supports as well, which maybe we should cover if you wish.
Well, there's a question Colette Markey asked, and I don't know whether I haven't, but obviously it's a big question. I'm sure, as you said, it's very confusing, but it's there. I don't know if you can see it. Does anybody know anything about uni students? Like, what's happening? People's going to stop paying rent. They're not going to have the money for rent. What happens there? Anybody? Rosemary, citizens?
Well, I do know that Queen's University announced a statement last week that people who had to leave the halls of residence, they will get the money returned to them. But there is an issue around landlords within the Belfast area and other student areas, and that's where questions has to be asked. Some are paying it back, some are not, and we are getting queries around that, and we don't have the answers to that yet. That's something that needs to be looked at.
Again, people can contact you, and you'll come back on with information for us to give out, yeah?
Yes, yes. That's what I'm saying. This is an extreme circumstances, and we're learning as well. But I have to say, the staff that I have are constantly working with each other. When they learn something, it's shared amongst everybody else. And so if there's any queries, and if any of those queries, I will talk to the staff tomorrow. They're the experts, not me. And if anything around the university comes up, I'll make sure, Cathal, that gets to you and you can get that up.
Thank you. You can come on yourself. Does anybody have an idea about the self-employed?
Yes,
Yeah, well, 3 or 4 times that was raised with me today, and I got on to this Kimmins deal with us for us at the Assembly on that issue. It requires legislation. It is a work in progress, and it will be forthcoming with more information over the next day or so.
Yes, Cathal, the self-employed are currently in a difficult position. There is a belief that Treasury in London are going to bring in more supports for them. But at present, there are a few measures, albeit not perfect, but there are measures out there. For example, self-assessment income tax payments, which are due for the self-employed at the 31st of July coming, they have now been deferred until the 31st of January 2021. And also, the minimum income floor to access to universal credit has been suspended for self-employed people, and that will help them. In addition, there's also a situation whereby some self-employed, as well as businesses, by the way, may well be currently in time to pay arrangements with HMRC. The belief is, and certainly I'm aware of one or two, that HMRC have adopted a pretty conciliatory approach to this. However, I've got to stress it's on an individual basis. So again, you would need to ring the HMRC or go through your local accountant and try and get a new arrangement on your time to pay arrangements.
Perfect. So any other questions on that? Or anybody want to make anything on it? Gary, Rosemary?
Yeah, just on the university, my son is in his final year at Dublin City University. They were sent home fairly quickly. University closed. So students are doing their finals online now. So all sit-down exams in the university cancelled. It'll all be done by assessment. They're getting lectures online at the moment. But now, any of those students that have paid for accommodation, the reality is they're not going to get the money back. That's just the way it is. And as I said to my son today, the reality is you will probably, other than your graduation, never set foot in the university again, because they were due to finish up in mid-May anyway. So the likelihood is he will not set foot in the university ever again.
Yeah.
Do you see? Go ahead, Rosemary.
Yeah. Again, some of the advisors have just contacted me to say that a lot of the landlords can avail of the mortgage holiday, and then you might be able to negotiate with them for the last few months of the rent. That's because they're availing of the mortgage holiday, and it might work out. And some people are working out well that way.
Yeah, Gary's son is in Dublin, and therefore, obviously, the measures which the Taoiseach announced today, Gary, will have to be further flushed out to see the situation re those students in Dublin. Indeed, I have a son myself currently at UCD, but I have to say, I have been very impressed. Not sure he's been totally impressed, but very impressed by the way that the university is continuing to function online, and all the lectures, exams had to be fair. A massive effort in terms of preparation has gone on there.
So, but basically, would it also be fair to say that this is a mortgage holiday? Nobody's getting off the payment. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, it's not a grant, it's a mortgage holiday.
But your mortgage holiday is a new thing. That was always available to people who maybe found themselves in financial difficulties to continue on with the mortgage payments. That has always been there. A 3 months holiday, as they call it.
Yeah. So you're getting off for nothing, Charlie. You're just getting a delayed payment. Go ahead, Rory.
The average household with £100,000 mortgage, it's going to add roughly £10 a month onto their mortgage when their 3 months is up. There's mortgage calculators on then at the minute, and I was putting into it today. The average £100,000 mortgage, I think at £9.70, it's going to add on to their mortgage at the end of 3 months.
So basically, you're saying there's interest going to get added on to your payment that you've deferred.
Yeah.
I suppose, Cathal, in that regard, the one good news is the non-Ireland executives rich relief package, which basically is saying that, and it's not a holiday, that for the months of April, May, and June, people are now going to get businesses are going to get a risk-free period. And that's significant, to be fair, and that's across all businesses.
So what was basically said is that you've got the deferred payment, you've got the rates relief, you've got employees, if they go on this, what was it called again, this...
Furlong.
I'll never remember that name. This furlong, yeah.
It's an American term.
Yes.
I believe it's. I thought it was the length that the horse rang or something, but
So to be fair, there are also a few other things. There's the small business grant scheme, which basically businesses with a net annual value less than 15,000. You know that's the thing that's based on for annual rates. If people are familiar with the rentable value of your property, so if it's less than 15,000, you can qualify for a £10,000 grant, and that's a grant. And similarly, for businesses basically where their net annual value is between 15 and 51,000, they can potentially qualify for a £25,000 grant. Now,
again, who do they go to, Fergal, for that?
Well, basically, you have to apply for the grants, right? But just to clarify, it is not the week commencing the 23rd, which is Monday past. It hasn't yet been formally clearly advised how it's happening. But look, you got to realize this is happening so quick. But the point is, there is a commitment that if you meet those requirements, you will get a very quick short-term grant. And you're hearing the TV programs, as well as all of us, by government giving a commitment that money will become available quite soon. Similarly, it's fair to say that the hospitality industry, there were a few. Obviously, the hospitality industry, we can see ourselves at present how hard it's been hit. And again, there were some relief provided there, and there was actually a relief, believe it or not, for hospitality workers. Now, unfortunately, it has dried up a bit, but it was £250 potentially per worker, and there's an expectation that will come on board again. The other big thing is VAT, and VAT is a major cash flow for most businesses, and there is now an agreement, and you don't have to apply for this. This is automatically, basically, it's an automatic relief that VAT for the months of February, March, and April will be deferred. And the reality is that those months now won't be paid until perhaps 2021, but it's a deferral as opposed to a grant.
Right. Okay. Just there's one up there, and there's another one came through there. Just maybe to the councillors, what do you think of the fact gardeners are out working at this time or going out working? There's other people out working, and people's trying to get a living, but there seems to be a lot of confusion about who should be working, who not. Is it council gets their directive from who directs what? How do we know who can work and who can't work? Somebody take that, councillor.
Cal, they're following the medical advice. Now, the council did.
I've lost you there, Charlie. Can you pick up on that?
Yeah, well, council, as I think Gary was going to say, is council are taking medical advice on it, and if anybody's medically unfit to work, they will be sent home. No doubt about that. But if you're fit to work and there's work there for you, you'll carry on doing it. But they'll obviously, but if they're working in partnership, they must respect the guidelines set out by the Public Health Authority.
Right. So what I'm saying is, but at the minute, there's some people working out there, right? They have to work. We need the shops. Who is meant to be working? Who's not meant to be working? Is construction meant to be working? Is like there's certain shops today that's open, and I know they're struggling, but I mean, are they meant to all be open? What's essential services?
And that's what. How do you define essential services? I mean, the coming from both Westminster and the Assembly is if you have an essential service, you can continue to work under the circumstances. But if you're non-essential, you must close.
Anybody have an update? Repaid parking?
all cancelled. All those, they're all knocked ahead. They will be from tomorrow on or from Friday on.
I've seen them today, Charlie.
No fines on the streets and nothing. That's all.
There's plenty of space to park now anyway, Charlie.
Unfortunately.
Just what, Cal, can I come in at one thing? One of just a spur of thought, people for the checkout operators and the people who are serving in our shops, because you see sometimes people are going right up, leaning right into a checkout operator, and they can't move out of the way. They have nowhere to go. I know some of the shops have screens up, but keep a distance there, and I appreciate not everybody has contact.
I think I lost you again, Gary. Pick that up again, Charlie or Rosemary. Somebody jump in there.
No, I
don't know. What was he saying? I don't know. I couldn't hear it.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
You're breaking up a bit, Gary. Your internet's starting to go.
I was just making the point.
Utility bill.
I was making the point about giving staff and the people, our checker operators, not getting too close.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of these people is all our young people too, aren't they, Gary? They're all out working. They're all young ones. I call them children. They're all out working behind them counters, and let's face it, behind them counters, they're very much at risk because there's a lot of strangers coming into them, and they're also in the front line, aren't they? They're very much in the front line.
If you're at checkout, you can't stand back. You're there, and if somebody leans right across to you, you're literally putting somebody's life at risk. The same for bus drivers. Again, if you can, don't be buying the ticket on the bus if you can. Don't be, give the bus driver some room. Don't be leaning right into them.
Can anybody just give me, Rosemary, could you jump in on that one?
Yes, on the appeals. Some DL appeals, there's a few different pieces of information regarding appeals. That some can be paper-based. We could do what you call submissions to the appeal service. Some are going to be done through Skype, and some can wait until such time if people are prepared to wait till this crisis is over. But again, I can get that information logged on for you to be put up on screen and put onto people's Facebook. I share all those rules tomorrow with you.
That's absolutely brilliant.
And certainly, Cathal, really, the business updates. PKFFPM, we're doing currently a regular update for business both north and south, which is quite unique. I think, to my knowledge, there's nobody else doing that. And certainly, we have no issue with sharing that on the destination website.
Listen, if anybody gets me the links that they have, we will be bringing you back on again. We're sort of a bit all over the place because we're hit with a lot. We also understand that people can't really get around their house. We're definitely in unique times here. And I would also say that, would you say, Rosemary, that it's probably going to get worse before it's going to get better? Charlie, you would say that, certainly.
Yeah, well,
absolutely, because...
Sorry, Charlie, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Charlie.
No, I mean, if people would follow the particular guidelines that are laid down, I think we can have the excesses of this particular apocalypse, if I could use that term for it. But we need to be mindful of how we do our day-to-day business. If you're told to stay in the house, stay in the house. Except you can out for essentials, bread, and keep your social distancing. That's the important element. No contact.
Thank you, Charlie.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Rosemary.
Around appeals. As of today, we just received government information this evening that all medicals have been suspended. And that goes for the next 3 months, so that will be reviewed. So if you've got an employment support allowance or any medical assessments from the department, they've been cancelled for the next 3 months. So that's a wee bit of reassurance for people, and payments will continue.
See, in terms of council, Charlie, I know you're doing, is this all, again, with this hub that you're talking about? You've seen that question. I know I brought it up, but just to clarify that, about,
nobody pays the council, what do you mean council rent?
No, you talked about the hub that is getting created, the pulling the people together. This will address this problem.
Absolutely, yeah. They'll deal with a number of very vital issues that people are meeting on a day-to-day basis.
And again, their mental health, very important this time. There's a lot of people will be lonely. A lot of people will not get the support they had in the past. Grannies and grandas and mommies and daddies won't have the same contact even with children. You'll not be able to go in, you'll not be able to hug them, you'll not be able to help them. You know, mental health, Rosemary.
Yes, and I think that's where you're going to see the different charities around the Newry area will be PIPS in particular. PIPS, I had an email from Seamus and PIPS today to say that they're going to continue with telephone support and their counsellors will be in contact with clients and they're going to be available for that. And that'll all that information will come through the community hub, what's being left. I also had an email from Jacinta in Space where she mentioned that they will be still working with their vulnerable families through telephone, through Skype, through different areas working from home. So people will have that contact, albeit through the phone. That's very important. So organizations are coming together, but I think it's really, really important. Not only do we look at mental health, but we look at the mental health of our own workers, because they are dealing with an awful lot of frontline. They're listening to very, very sad, distressing stories. And I'm sure Fergus people are the same, businesses collapsing, council workers, all of that. So it's important that we as leaders of our own organisations look after the mental health of our workers to enable them to continue to do the work that they're doing.
Thank you, Rosemary. Fergal, did you want to add to that before we wrap it up?
Well, look, we all recognise that the biggest priority just at present is health, but whenever hopefully this the COVID-19 is over, we all would like to have a job to go back to and business, and make no mistake about it. The business experience over the last couple of days has been unprecedented, and I think that I do think the business will be resilient and rally back. But please make no mistake about it, I have never personally experienced so many sad stories as I've heard from a business perspective, but people are putting it in perspective. I have to say, they're all saying the health of our staff, the health of our local community is more important. And that's why I think it's right we don't highlight it tonight. But make no mistake about it, there are major liquidity and cash flow issues currently hitting virtually all businesses, and there will be major challenges going forward. And what I think we have to hope is that this is temporary, and therefore to make sure that there will be businesses in a good position to open up when it's over. And to do that, to be fair, you can't wait till then. Businesses will require to do business continuity planning. Once the I suppose, to be fair, once the stress and the anxiety of the last few days, the next few days has got over, business leaders will have to start doing cash flow forecasts and identifying what costs will they have to incur even if their business is closed or significantly reduced, and we'll have to go and look for some of those loans we talked about earlier on. But I would have full confidence in our local business community. I think, to be fair, to congratulate the Newry Chamber and indeed the Newry Bid and the council. Charlie, I should say to the council, I'm well aware that the three organisations have met a few times. I'm equally aware that they've been putting very good information out there, and I would be pretty confident that the greater Newry business community will rise to the challenge. But make no mistake about it, it's a challenge that we've never experienced before.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that, Fergal. So basically, everyone, will push for more information, and we would like you to add your questions. Please tell us what you're doing to help other people. If there are people out there who need help, reach out and ask. You can come to Destination Newry. We'll pass you on to these people that are a lot more knowledgeable than me. Whether that's business, whether it's social problem, whether it's something with council, simple things. We'll try and do our bit by trying to connect people. It's going to be a difficult time, but we can all help each other. Forget about the people that tell you it's just a flu. Boris Johnson wouldn't close an economy down for a flu. We'll put up the links to all the local councillors' telephone numbers, email addresses. I don't know whether they want us to do that, but we're doing it anyway. They're willing to help and advise people where you need to go or to do to solve whatever problem you may have, if it is solvable. Keep washing your hands. Keep home. If there's just you and your family, as the doctor said, at home, and you don't go out and meet people, you can't get the virus. This will save lives, maybe save your lives or your family members' lives. Don't listen to the hard man talk about it's just a flu. They're actually more scared than you think. Keep in contact with your parents and grandparents by phone or video. If you need help with that, we at Destination Newry might be able to help with video. The local newspapers are all available online. Sign up if you want and keep up to date. There are lots of local websites. Newry.ie, Newry Times, Newry Now. There's more than Destination Newry. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Ask your questions and we will try to get you the answers. If anyone out there has an activity, be it a quiz or a fitness regime, something that they're doing at home, a singing competition, even story reading idea, contact Destination Newry and we see can we connect you and put you on to try and create that sort of loyalty between us all. We'll help you with brand. No idea be too silly. So it could be cooking or singing or dancing or a small play, a quiz, a competition, a comedy act or a story. An interview with local history, questions and answer, showing photographs of self. God bless all and stay safe. We'll be back with another update soon. I want to thank all our guests tonight, the councillors, Charlie Casey and Gary Stokes. I want to thank Rosie McDonald. I want to thank Kevin McGee. I want to thank Fergal McCormick. I want to thank, who did I leave out? I want to thank, I wrote it all down here. I want to thank Dr. Sean McAvoy. There was a few more still want to come in. We will get you back in again. I know there's a guy from Spain and that, and I just didn't have time to do it, but we will bring people in from abroad to give us an update. There seems to be a lot of people here talking, you know. Like, I will go there. Jarlath Tinley did happen to mention, I will say this again, Rosemary, because I think it's vital there, and I think actually somebody said, mental health. What do we do? Is there any advice about mental health before I leave and go after thinking? It is vitally important. Rosemary, you're on. Can you hear me, Rosemary?
No, I've lost the last minute or two. What did you say, Campbell?
I'm saying there's a lot of people that sent in questions about mental health, that it is one of the biggest things. Fergal talked there about businesses under pressure, but ultimately this boils down to mental health. This is going to have effect on people's mental health.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to get the information out of those groups within our local community. Also, remember, we have bereavement care because people are going to lose people in this, and they're going to need that support. We've got PIPS, Seamus McCabe and PIPS, an excellent organisation, couldn't be better. They're still keeping their councillors up and about. We have some local councillors who are given free time. We have the likes of Women's Aid, who support people who are isolated in their homes at the minute, potential domestic violence. So there's a lot of help out there. So we need to get that information out as wide and as far as possible. As I said earlier in the programme, we need it not just online. We also really need to have it in our local newspapers, in our local shops. Tesco's is open, Asda is open, our local counters open, our local post office is open. We need that information out so people can pick it up and get as much help as possible. And I have to say, from tonight, I've learned an awful lot personally, and I hope that people of the Newry area have learned a lot tonight.
Well, thank you all. As I say, mental health, Rosemary, we'll get all the details of you. We'll try and put it up. We will come back to people. We'll give them this forum. We'll let them come on. We'll let them give them their questions. They're coming in and phone. They're coming in here. I can't take it all. So we're going to leave it at that. And I'm going to say thank you to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Calvin. Good night.